Hi, everyone. Welcome back. And let me welcome up our guests for tonight. We have the director of the film, Tammi, the writers and executive producers, Adam Mason and Simon Boys. And we have the two stars of the film, Megalyn Echikunwoke and Yonas Kibreab, and executive producer, Lauren Downey. So you all are welcome to turn on your video. And let's switch over to gallery. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we get started, I just want to let anyone know that's watching in the audience, if you wanted to ask a question, I'll sometimes bring people over live so that you can actually turn on your video and ask it. Especially if there's anyone out there who worked on the film that wants to say hi. Just put your question in the Q&A box. And I'll welcome you over in a little bit. So I'm very curious because I read that this was shot entirely during the pandemic. And so I was curious if it was also written during the pandemic, if the season of Into the Dark was already completely established before things shut down back in March.
I can jump in on this one and then let Adam take over, but this was a script that we had and we actually started prepping, I guess early March, like right before we shut down, before the pandemic hit. So it was a script we were prepping, then it had to go through a major evolution and a lot of rewrites. Thankfully, Simon and Adam were down for the challenge as our needs evolved when we got back up in September. I think so. We completely prepped remotely, shot it during the pandemic, but the script was going to be our finale, but it definitely went through a lot of work to make it achievable with what we needed.
Well, I was particularly interested about the timeline here because Adam and Simon have the distinction of being the first filmmakers to make a film in the pandemic, right? With Songbird. And so I was thinking that you must have learned a lot in that process that then maybe like went back into this script. In terms of how to accomplish this with, a little bit more of a streamlined crew and cast and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it definitely helped that we'd been through that experience. So when, Lauren came to us and said, we need to make changes for, COVID reasons, we felt much more confident being able to tackle that, having just finished Songbird. So it was pretty good timing in that respect.
What were some of the things that you took the film in a bit of a different direction?
I think, it's just weird things you don't necessarily think about. I think some of the things like romantic scenes, intimate scenes where you have to be careful about actors being too close together was one of the big ones. I'm struggling to think of others, but it's a lot of like practical, reasons that you have to change locations or use less locations, or complicated stunts can't be done if you need too many people, or all of those kinds of things. So it's just about streamlining certain things or trying to simplify certain things, but obviously without losing the core of the story, the narrative, and what we're trying to tell.
Well, you guys certainly found the right director. The last time I had the pleasure to talk to Emma, we were screening her film The Wind on campus, which made tremendous use of a central performance and one, specific set. So I'm curious to know, Emma, how early on in this process you got involved, especially since this is your second installment for Into the Dark within the same season.
That's true, although they were almost a year apart. So it weirdly felt like the time-space continuum had been broken, which of course it had. But yeah, I think one of the things that was so amazing about the script, which was not something that Adam or Simon or Lauren could have anticipated, was that a huge element of it was Esme and Luna, trying to stay off the grid, and then the isolation that they were both feeling emotionally in terms of not being able to interact with society and people in the way that one normally would want to. So I think those elements were already like organic to the story, and this idea that they were isolated and that there weren't a ton of people in their lives was already baked in. That was helpful in terms of the COVID of it all. And I think also I'll let Megalyn and Yonas speak to this, but relatable feelings at this moment. So I think, you know, we were fortunate that the story supported the circumstances in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, let's bring in our cast members. Do you want to talk a little bit about what drew you to the script, and also at what stage did you read the script? If it was back in its original form or as things evolved, give us a sense of when you came into the production.
Megalyn, you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I read the script definitely at the final stage. It was finalized. And so I don't know about the previous iterations of it, but I loved it. I thought it was such a wonderful character study of this single mom doing whatever it took to protect her child. And I loved the arc from the sacrifice she had to make, leaving her career. And when you pick back up, when you first see us, it's been 10 years and they've been through a lot. And yeah, I think like Emma said, all the things that we were feeling, I felt were somehow really, they were really prevalent, and I felt like it was a really good opportunity to kind of like exorcise these demons, as well as tell this wonderful story about a mother and a son, and so yeah.
Turn.
Your turn.
Nice. So, this was my first movie role. I done other things, but the first time I saw it, I'm like, dang, that's thick. So I read it, and then I'm like, wow, it standed out to all of the other scripts that I've read, because I've done some stuff, quite a few stuff, and they were a lot different than this one. So that was the interesting part about this one.
So how did you prepare to portray a werewolf?
Well, I was working on my growling. And I was a werewolf 3 times in a row for Halloween when I was I started at 6 and then I went up 3 years, so 7, 8, 9. I have to be a werewolf this year just because of this, and yeah, I just thought I knew how to do it.
I have to say, I was sort of expecting Yonas to show up with some prosthetics and fur at the end, and instead you brought on this beautiful white wolf to play the animal version of that character. Tell us a little bit about that choice. Was there ever a more sort of humanoid figure there, or were you always planning to go back to the actual animal?
Well, I think Adam and Simon keyed it off. I think in the script, it's written as a fully transformed wolf. So we were definitely going off of that. But I think, and this is something that Lauren can also speak to, but you know, oftentimes I would say with this series, and Adam's been down this road before as well, you know, you really want to make sure with the budget and the time that you have that you can crack it. And, you know, for this one particularly was so grounded that we wanted to make sure that the effects, whether they were VFX or practical, just felt fully integrated with the world and the characters, and didn't all of a sudden feel like they pulled you out of the reality that we had already established and the mood of the film. So in some ways, using a real animal and also having a reveal that felt a little bit unexpected, I think was really lovely. And yeah, I don't know if anyone else wants to speak to that, but I think that dominated the choice in some ways as well. think that there was always something so like magical about Luna. And at the end of the day, we didn't want to show this terrifying creature. We wanted to be surprised. You know, we wanted to have, you know, what we've seen be his struggle and challenge throughout the whole film actually manifest as this beautiful thing at the end. I mean, he's got some blood on him, but you know what I mean.
Well, it's also, I think, probably helpful that you, you know, you've got this beautiful animal, and you know that there is an instant kind of feeling of like, oh, there is a love that you can see just coming between the mother and the son, even in animal form, which might be hard to accomplish if it's some like grotesque werewolf prosthetic, you know.
Yeah.
I really wanted to compliment you guys for the story beats where you learn kind of the backstory of the relationship that Esme has, because she chooses, you know, she chooses love despite the obstacles to have the, you know, to move forward with the pregnancy, to get married, despite knowing the conditions. And that's a really unusual choice. I mean, there's certainly a version where you don't get all of that rich, you know, backstory. Can you guys talk about wanting to include that as part of her story? I guess, Simon?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think it all really stemmed from wanting to tell a werewolf story that was more about someone desperately trying to protect, you know, what this person in their life becomes once a month. And it was literally kind of talking practically, well, if you're the mother of a boy who turns into a werewolf once a month, how does that happen? And that gave us the idea of obviously her meeting this guy who has this secret and learning to love him, and seeing that he's a good person who has this challenging thing every month to try not to hurt other people, and has learned to deal with it. And I think it was about her feeling there's a way that this can work. And then obviously the tragedy of it is that one day he got out and, you know, wasn't able to control himself, and Esme had to kill him. And then the question is not only can I look after Luna, but can I protect other people from Luna as well, I think, which is why Esme's job's so hard. She's trying to protect everyone. So I think that was important for us to kind of, I haven't seen many movies where there's like a child werewolf. So it's kind of important to us to at least try and explain as well, like, how does this come about, you know? So I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also maybe potentially that sort of tragic ambiguity to whether or not she actually needed to kill her husband, right? She says it, and then you see that it's possible between the mother and son, and whether or not that could have possibly translated to husband and wife.
Yeah, we thought it was really interesting to obviously, Esme loves her son and will do anything for him, but she doesn't actually know for sure if he would kill her if he got out. Would he recognize her? Would he be cool? Would he be, you know, angry and violent? And I definitely think it's an open question as to whether her husband was going to kill her or whether it was just an impossible way to know, and she pulled the trigger because she felt she had to. I think that's kind of something we can all, you know, decide for ourselves how, you know, what would have gone down if she hadn't pulled that trigger. But I think that's one of the really touching things for us at the end, is seeing that actually he does recognize her and he would never hurt her. And maybe that gives you some hope for the future, despite by the end of the movie, they're leaving obviously on a somewhat tragic note that they've got to find a new home and a new place to be safe and everything else.
We also like the idea that, you know, Esme has this secret from her own son that she killed his father, that we were kind of thinking that, you know, she held a great deal of burden of guilt over that fact of not being able to really tell him what happened.
Can you guys talk a little bit about what the casting process was like, actually, in terms of virtual casting, or how this process differed? Because, I mean, to find this cast under the conditions also that you were facing must be an interesting story, especially with Yonas making his feature film debut.
Well, Yonas navigates virtual auditions and Zoom better than anyone I know. So he was already 10 steps ahead of us in terms of navigating it all. But and Megalyn and I, we were like FaceTiming. I was on a location scout. We were FaceTiming in the car with the mask on. I was like, I remember like having the worst signal, and it was the first time we had spoken in person and in person. So, I mean, it was, we were just all making do with the tools and resources that we had at our fingertips at that point. And what's weird is that in hindsight, I feel like I met you guys before we started shooting. And of course I didn't. And you guys didn't meet each other before shooting, which was really, the chemistry between Esme and Luna is like what this whole movie is about. So that could have really fallen flat on its face had it not worked out in real life, but it did. And I'm not really sure how to illuminate the process more, other than I think it was just a version of what everyone is doing right now in terms of adapting their lives to this this half virtual reality.
Well, the complications of not having them be able to meet each other in the process is really, I guess, a credit to actually how the performances wound up coming together. And Megalyn, do you want to talk a little bit about what it was like to work with Yonas to develop that relationship, given the fact that you didn't maybe have as much time in the pre-production process to develop that relationship?
Yeah, well, I mean, regarding the casting, I feel like we got so lucky. It was just really a very fortunate situation. And Yonas, I was nervous at the beginning because we haven't met and I've never played a mom before. And I meet Yonas and it's like so seamless. He's so professional, brings so much great energy to set, always has jokes, but when the camera's rolling, he's like acting me off the screen. And I'm really, I'm like getting pissed. Where does this kid get off being so good? I feel so lucky. I mean, I don't have kids, but I feel like if I could have a kid like Yonas, maybe it's not such a bad thing.
When this was originally conceived, was it always going to be an April film? I'm curious because we talked a little bit last month about sort of trying to realign with the theme of the month, and I guess it's a late March film. It's not an April film because it's going to time up with the next the first full moon of the year, or the first
of the spring.
Of the spring. Sorry. It's the full moon comes once a month.
I'll jump in. I think because like I said, I think we were only a week into prepping. I think it was originally supposed to air in September of last year. So I think originally it was back to school, right? Adam and Simon, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we were kind of, that part of the Jonas's desire to go to school and to be a normal kid. We were like, that's a very seamless thing to work into the story. And again, going through the whole process and saying, okay, what can we tie it to? And, a full moon is an easy one to to get.
And Lauren, I wanted to ask sort of the moving forward, if you run out of the big holidays, what I mean, we've seen some really inventive things, and I'm curious what things are out there that might I guess encourage filmmakers to write stories about crazy days of the year that nobody really knows about until someone's made a horror film about it.
That's a really good question, because I think in the process, while we were going through so many scripts, like we've done 24 of these, is it sometimes a script has something naturally baked in, like, Halloween, Christmas, stuff like that. The bigger holidays are easier to find. But for a few of them, we've been a little bit creative of like, okay, we love this script, or this is very fun and it's a great story. It's going to be fun one for people to watch. How can we find a holiday? And then it's a lot of Googling. You'd be very surprised at how many holidays exist in months, So I don't, in terms of advice, I feel like, if you have a good story to tell or something that you are excited about telling, You know, that's all my advice is just go for it. You know, don't worry about a specific holiday or how to market it if it's a fun story.
That's some great advice.
Thank you, Yonas.
Well, given that there are, you know, that many of you have worked on multiple Into the Dark episodes, I'm curious if you do sort of, as you're sitting, you know, at your laptop thinking, what crazy day out there could inspire the next story? Is there one in particular that you guys have individually kind of set your sights on?
Ooh.
I feel like this is a challenge. We have to do like national.
That's so funny you say that. I almost chimed in earlier without, so it's National Donut Day. There's like a national food day for every freaking food now.
Right.
So sky's the limit. But yeah.
Yeah.
I love all the solstice holidays and stuff. I mean, we're kind of close to that actually with this lunar calendar stuff, but that's always cool.
Good question though.
Very good question.
Give it some thought.
Sibling Day, National Coffee Day.
Sibling Day. That could be creepy.
National Coffee Day?
You know, I don't know. On Instagram, everyone's always like, it's National whatever day.
I don't drink coffee.
Day.
I feel like yesterday was National Puppy Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Clocked that.
Puppy Day?
Mm-hmm.
So was I supposed to like ask my dad for a dog?
Get a puppy, definitely. I think a day late is still counts. You can do it today.
I'll remember next time.
So I want to just remind anyone out there that if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand or drop a note in the Q&A box. And we've got some time to bring you over if you wanted to say hi live. Otherwise, I can just read questions out loud. So I guess my question is also like once you've actually shot everything, how was the process different for you to then see it all the way through to air date? Like Emma, were you able to spend time with your editor? I mean, how did that process change?
Well, yes, every day, all day, but not together. So we were doing everything remote. And it was very helpful that Andrew Wiseman, our amazing editor, who Adam has also worked with, we had delivered together. So we had the experience of sitting together in a real room and getting to know each other in real life prior to this, which was so lovely. But yeah, we were doing everything over Skype, actually, weirdly enough. I was like looking at Andrew's Avid system or the monitor. He would kind of flip in terms of what screen he was sharing with me all over Skype, which ended up being his virtual platform of choice. So I don't know, again, you just adapt, and I really miss being in person with people. I'm so excited for being able to do that again. But we were able to still experiment and I think be really in step with each other. And, you know, there were some things that were harder and there were other things that were actually benefits in terms of how we were sharing notes and rough cuts and stuff like that. So same thing with the sound mix, same thing with the color grade, all virtual.
And were you shooting the same amount of like coverage as you normally would?
We were not. This show is normally shot on 2 cameras, and we reduced to 1 camera for this episode, which Lynn Moncrief, the cinematographer, and I really tried to actually take advantage of. There are some, you know, scenarios where you're rushing to really make it good enough for both cameras in terms of your lighting setup and whatnot. And when you only have the option to use all of that time for 1 camera to really look spectacular, you know, it's sometimes a benefit. So we were just like trying to use the additional COVID constraints that were in the mix on this one to find new opportunities. And what it actually did, and I think Megalyn and Yonas can speak to this, you know, we reduced our setups. So the trade-off for that was getting to do more takes. And for me, that was really great because I think Megalyn and Yonas had a little bit more time to live in the scene, live in the character. Again, we didn't really have rehearsals, so all that felt really valuable. And I thought it was kind of a great trade-off in the end.
I loved it. I have to say, I loved working like that because it's always, most of the time, it's more than one camera, and it's really fast, and it's like you got to get it in a couple takes. And Emma let me do so many takes of so many things, which was good because we'd all, like, this was the first time any of us were being around people for months at a time. So I was like, whoa. So it was really valuable, and I think in the end kind of really added to the whole thing, because I feel like I did some stuff that I've never done before, and had the opportunity to really stretch in ways I hadn't before, only because I had the time and the space and the support to do that. So yeah.
Can you think of
can we do this all the time? Can it always be like this?
Was there a particular scene that you remember this process really sort of helping you along in terms of where you started and where you ended up?
Gosh, I don't know if I can think of one off the bat, but there were so many really, for me, even though I know this was for the spectator a thriller horror, but as an actor, for me and Yonas, this was like a really intense, like emotional, like character excavation, and so a lot of the scenes were really heavy for me. And Emma, really, I thank you so much, Emma, for letting me have the real estate to really try stuff, because and this is a credit to Adam and Simon, it was such a fertile ground for so much. I think it was such a dynamic story, and because as an actor, you're really balancing, like, projecting strength and also projecting vulnerability, and having to be fierce but having to be like a soft mother, and I was challenged by that, and I really am excited by those types of challenges. So
you did a great job being my mom for how many months? Like
10 years.
10 years.
Own it.
Oh yeah, Mom. She's downstairs.
Anyway, yeah. I can't think of one scene. I think honestly, all of the scenes. It was really wonderful.
Yonas, what was your favorite scene to shoot?
My favorite scene to shoot? Honestly, all of the scenes were really fun to shoot, but my favorite one is probably when I got to sleep in the car. Because I had to pretend to sleep, but I remember it was so hot, so I don't know if I fainted or something, but then I actually fell asleep, so I got my nap in.
So you're really sweating in that scene then?
Yeah. I don't know if I was supposed to, but I'm pretty sure
it made sense for the character.
Emmys 2022. Here you come.
Yeah, we had a crazy heat wave during that shoot.
Oh, it
was so hot.
Yeah. And that scene, you were wrapped in a wool blanket. We did one round and then we realized how hot it was in there. We're like, get everyone out of there. This is crazy. That was a oneer.
You killed it.
You nailed it. You only needed one.
So we have just a comment here from Danielle, and Danielle, if you're out there, let me see if she's still there. Oops. I would love to bring you over to say hi. So hang on a second. Let's see.
Hola.
Hi.
Danielle, oh my gosh. Hi. Danielle's in our movie. Danielle's our fabulous nurse. Who does not, isn't able to get that blood from
No,
Luna.
they disappeared.
Disappeared. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I absolutely loved the film. I just had a blast watching it, and I just wanted to say congratulations. It was so much fun to watch everybody, to watch the story unfold from reading the script to seeing it on the screen. And I have my own little Luna. His name is Batman.
Oh my gosh.
Tongue sticking out. Oh.
So yeah, we watched the film together, and I just was just full of joy, and working with you all was such a treat. It was you know, it was just a day, but I felt like I really made connections with you, and I want to thank you.
Aw, thanks, Danielle. You were so great. Danielle actually had like a take that we probably did like the most of in the whole film. That take of you walking down the hallway and the turn revealing that Esme and Luna are no longer in the, it's a short shot, but we did it like, I don't know what was going on with our rig at that point. We just like weren't getting the timing right. You were such a trooper and you totally nailed it every time. And we eventually caught up, but you probably had the most takes of anyone's setup.
Ah, okay. Well, thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much for being a part of it. Good to see you.
My 10-year-old checkup.
You're what?
I need my 10-year-old checkup. Can she help me with that?
Well, I should thank you all so much for joining us tonight. It was really fun to talk to everyone, and thank you so much for sharing this movie and for 2 wonderful seasons of Into the Dark. I hope that we'll get some more soon, and that in the meantime you'll go home and really start thinking about that bizarro holiday that nobody has mined for kind of, you know, for horror gold, and bring it to Hulu sooner than later. Does anyone have any sort of final thoughts or anything that they want us to take away from the film?
Ask us questions. Come on.
I've got a Megalyn quote that I found to be one of the most insightful about this film when we were shooting, or no, it was before we were even shooting. But it also ties into what Simon and Adam were saying earlier, I think, about the struggle that Esme as a single mom is going through. And Megalyn, after she read the script, she was like, the story reminded me of a mother trying to raise a child with a disability, and a child in a world that is not catered to help him grow or thrive or succeed or even perceive him in the right way. And I think one of the coolest things about werewolf stories and creature stories in general is that they often, you know, help us see our own humanity or lack thereof at times. And I just thought that was like one of the best insights about the Esme Luna dynamic. And again, it just felt like it hit like the drama of that internal struggle of this mom trying to help her son not only, you know, survive but succeed. And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and that was really I think the driving force behind my performance, and that was all due to the writing. I found so much so many gems, so many inspiring things that added to my performance, and I think that was really due to you guys. So thanks, Simon and Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And Yonas,
you,
thank
guys.
you for preparing to be a werewolf for 3 years in the making prior to stepping into the shoes of Luna.
I have to say that, so Yonas has been actively answering questions as they came in, so I missed some of these.
Oh, cool.
But there was a comment that came in from Terry, who used to be a casting director and cast a lot of kids, and just wanted to say as a professional that Yonas was terrific. So
Agreed.
wanted to make sure that that everyone got to hear that out loud. One thing, there was a question about whether or not it was a wolf or a really large dog.
Wolf.
Wow, it's like, how do you even find a wolf in a pandemic?
There's a guy for that. No. There's a woman for that. And she is a wolf wrangler and has a couple of wolves. This wolf actually was enormous. And I don't know if the scale was totally, apparent, but it did have a little bit of dog in it. But Lauren, you'll have to speak to this, but like whether or not this wolf was trained, I don't know. And like poor Megalyn had to, act with this wolf, and it was challenging. He was very distracted, had a hard time really doing anything we were trying to get him to do. And we captured just enough moments to get it. But
that wolf needs to get to class. He needs to go to USC or something.
Totally.
Yeah, he's technically a movie wolf, like a hybrid wolf dog, but I think the biggest problem is that he just looked like a very happy dog in pretty much every, so he was technically trained, but he just was kind of doing his own thing, running around, like just very happy. It was hard to get him to look menacing.
He was so at ease with all of us.
Yeah.
We create a great set, but you got to do your job, dog.
Yeah, he was definitely licking your face by the end of it. So took a minute to get there, but he got there.
Yeah.
And Megalyn's allergic. So I mean, we just had everything not, going for us in that moment, but we made it happen.
Thank you, Claritin.
Mm-hmm.
So you're allergic to dogs or wolves?
Dogs, but I'm assuming wolves also, because I never met any wolves until this movie, until you. Yeah.
So then how did you deal with me the whole time we were shooting?
Zyrtec. What do you think?
Never heard of that.
Well, on that note, thank you all so much for jumping in and doing this with us tonight, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Thanks for having us, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Great chatting. Good seeing everyone.
Great to see you all.
You too. Thanks, guys.
You guys again.
Nice to meet you, Simon.
Nice to meet you guys.
Thanks for everyone that tuned in. We can't
Great
see you, but we
performances.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.